I'm going to try something a little bit different for today's video. There is a YouTube channel that I follow called To Readers It May Concern. It's also about books. It's in a somewhat different vein than from what I do here. But recently they did an interesting challenge called the Honest BookTuber. It was a challenge created by Harriet Rosie 13. And it's basically a series of questions that are designed to get you to talk a little bit about the ethics of the way you do things on your channel. And after listening to his video, I decided I would try the same thing because many of the questions I think are pretty straightforward, but many of the answers that I had also provided some interesting food for thought with regard to the way that I do things here. So the first question is, have you ever lied about reading a book? And the short answer that I can give is no. All the books that I talk about on this channel, I read specifically for the sake of this discussion. Now, there may be books that I talk about on this channel that I read once upon a great time ago and all but vanished from memory. And if I talk about them, then I make a point of digging them up and rereading them and trying to get them fresh in my mind so that whatever I say about them is going to be current and timely. So if I ever talk about a book here, it's something that I have either read for the first time very recently or which I have reread very recently and which I may have changed my opinion on since the very first time I encountered it, which could be years or even decades ago. Question number 2 is, have you ever avoided a book because of controversy around the content or author? Now, I think the focus of my channel is a little too narrow for me to directly experience such problems. While I will say that there are some authors and there is some material that I steer away from simply because I don't want to be in the business of just provoking controversy for its own sake. I don't want to talk about things just because they will start a fire. If I'm going to take a book up because it has a controversial angle to it, I want to talk about it in a way that relates to what we're doing here so that the controversy is not simply being sparked for its own sake. So if I'm avoiding books like that, if it's only because I have so many other things that I want to talk about first that don't require that kind of spice to be interesting, and if I do work my way around to books like that, it'll be in good time and it will be because I have something constructive to bring to any discussion of them, I hope. Question number 3, have you ever been sent a book for free and not disclosed it? Okay, once upon a time, like in a previous lifetime, I guess you could say, I did a lot of book reviews for a number of other small outlets that mainly focused on anime and manga. I got sent a lot of stuff for free, and a lot of that stuff I wasn't really very interested in reading, to be honest about it. But I read it anyway, and I wrote about it anyway, because that was how you stayed in the game. Eventually, I decided to start doing this on my own. I started up my own little review outlet, so to speak, and it didn't get very far. I managed to keep it alive for a few years. But I made myself a promise, which was that if I'm going to talk about anything on this place, my own place, it's going to be stuff that I go and spend my own money on, rather than stuff that people send me, because I want to talk about the things that genuinely interest me instead of things that are just dropped on my doorstep. And I've brought that attitude with me to what I'm doing here. If I'm interested in talking about something, I will go out and seek it out on my own. I'm not going to wait for somebody to send me something and then work up a fake interest in it. If somebody does send me something, I'll think about it. But I'm not interested in looking at things just, again, because they arrive on my doorstep. And again, so many of the things that I want to talk about, I've already got queued up and ready to go. So it's not like I have a whole lot of space in my schedule for things that would just get sent to me. And because I'm such a small channel, I'm so marginal at this point, I don't think anybody's going to be sending me anything anyway. So question number 4 is, have you ever bought a book with no intention of reading it? And when To Readers It May Concern talked about this question, they analyzed it from the point of view of how a lot of people in this space tend to pick up books for the sake of their shelf aesthetic. That actually connects to a funny comment that somebody left on one of my videos the other day about why I have such space on the shelves that are behind me. And the short answer to that is I moved recently. I moved house back at the end of 2022, and in the process I cleaned out my book collection. I got rid of a lot of stuff that I decided I wasn't interested in anymore, or which I'd read and enjoyed, but which I didn't see myself coming back to, or which I had replaced with digital editions. And once that was finished, I noticed, I've got a lot more room than I used to. So the reorganization that you see behind me is me progressively building things back up again, this time to reflect what my current and genuine interests are. But I have never purchased a book just to stick on a shelf. I have never purchased a book just because it looked nice. The only thing that I can think of that is even remotely analogous to this is when I picked up the paper copy of a book and read it and enjoyed it, and then in time added a digital version, but kept the paper version on the shelf anyway because it's still nice to be able to pull it down and open it up and look at it. But I have never bought a book just to stick on a shelf. I have always purchased a book because I was going to at some point read it. Maybe not right now, maybe not even 6 months from now, but at some point I would do it. And to the degree that I have been able to adhere to that rule, I'm pretty happy. Number 5, have you ever gotten caught up in BookTube drama? And again, this is one of those things where because I'm such a marginal presence and because I've only been doing this for a few months, mercifully, no, I have never been caught up in BookTube drama. I am way too small a fish for that, and it's not something that I'm interested in cultivating in any way, shape, or form. And I know that, unfortunately, drama can visit people who have no interest in cultivating it to begin with, but so far I've been lucky, and I hope to stay that way. Number 6, have you ever had a hate comment, and did you respond? Now, in the short time that I've been doing this video, I've gotten a couple of comments that I would not describe as hate comments exactly. I would describe them more as being off-topic, irrelevant, not really the kind of thing that deserved a response, that sort of thing. And for the most part, I don't engage with that sort of stuff. I have had enough direct experience with community moderation in one form or another to know that the best way to deal with such things until they become really, really unmanageable is just not to give them any fuel. I know better than to respond to something that is clearly in bad faith, but I also know better to respond to something that just really isn't deserving of a response anyway. So the few times that I've had anything like this so far, I've just let it slide. I lose nothing. And I've also found, this is something that I was thinking about in great detail recently. I found that if somebody has something to say that has a kernel of a constructive comment in it or some insight, but the way that they are conveying it is not constructive, you are not under any obligation to give that person any more acknowledgement than is absolutely necessary. You can take what they say and you can think about it and say, all right, yes, this person has a point. I should probably do that. But that doesn't mean you have to engage with them. That doesn't mean that you have to give them any credence. Whatever people give you, you are free to do with as you see fit. It's your channel. It's your space. Question number 7 is, have you ever made a video just because you knew it would get views? And if anything, I've done the absolute opposite. I've done all the videos that I've done because they were about something that intrigued me and interested me. And some of the stuff that I thought was going to get no attention at all absolutely blew up. For instance, I was really stunned to see how big my video on Gödel or Bach blew up. That's gotten thousands and thousands of views, where the rest of my stuff has had maybe a couple of hundred tops. And then there are other things that I've done that I thought were important and interesting, like when I was talking about Sembein Osman and his filmmaking and his writing, and those things got basically no engagement at all. But I didn't feel like I had wasted my time doing it. The whole reason that I do anything on this channel at all is because it reflects my interests, and I want to record that and to make that into something that other people are going to find useful. So no, I don't make things because I think they're going to get views, because to be honest about it, I don't really know what's going to get views. I just try stuff, and if something blows up, great. Number 8 is, if you could go back to the beginning of your channel, would you do anything differently? Now, I'm so close to the beginning of starting this channel. I've only been doing this for a few months, so it's really hard for me to say what I would do differently. About the only thing that I could think of that I would do differently is I might have actually spent some extra money on a better camera. And to be honest about it, I don't do this because I want to show something really glamorous and professional looking. I'm perfectly happy with things looking functional and acceptably aesthetic. So that's about the only thing that I would change. The whole reason I started this thing was something that came to me after a great deal of deliberation. What is it that I want to put into the world that will be useful to people? Not just what will be amusing or a curiosity, but what will be actually useful to them. And I think that if I had picked what would have maybe been a more, flashy or glamorous subject, I would have probably regretted it. I'm actually happy that I chose the angle and the approach that I did, because it's allowed me to do what I do without feeling regret. Number 9, are there any channels that you wish you could be more like? Well, there are a lot of other channels that are more for casual readers, and they infuse a sense of fun and spontaneity into what they do. And I always enjoy seeing the way people like to just sort of do stuff spontaneously. And I want to find ways to loosen things up a bit over time. But I also want to do that without defocusing what it is I'm trying to do here. So I'm paying attention to how they can bring a sense of fun into what they're doing without it getting in the way. And I want to see if I can bring a little bit more of that into here, but I'm not going to force myself. Number 10, what is something that you love about your channel? And again, I like that what I'm trying to do here is to offer people tools and constructive analyses. And these aren't just about bragging about what I think is the best thing ever or about tearing something else down. This is about trying to help people improve the work they're doing by giving them additional lenses and perspectives and things to experience to help them do it. And this all stems from the experiences that I've had doing the same things. So that's what I want other people to admire in what I do too, because I know that I'm quite proud of what I've pulled together in just a short amount of time here. And finally, they ask you to tag some people. And this is the part where I have to cop out because, again, I know so few people. So I'm just going to say that if you're watching this and you're interested in following along, tag your it. See what you think.